Tonight, the topic is moving African American business to the next level. Without further ado, let me bring to the stage 8-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, co-founder, and my partner of Newsmakers Live, Mr. Maynard Eaton.
Thank you, Jim. We've had the pleasure of talking to a wealth, an array, a plethora of politicians. Tonight, I think we've stepped into a new arena where we have what I ascertain, and from my writing and reporting, maybe the #1 black businessman in Atlanta, if not the country. Thomas Dortch Jr. created, founded the 100 Black Men of America. He used to work with one of the premier senators in the nation, Sam Nunn. He is now a multimillionaire business owner, and he didn't get into 8A contracts. He's also on the board of the president of the board of Grady Hospital. This man has done it all. It is my plump, pleasing pleasure to have as my guest, businessman extraordinaire, Thomas Dortch. Thank you, Tom.
Good evening, Maynard.
Thank you, Tom, for being here. And it's going to be nice to spend a half hour talking to you because you've done so much.
Internal Revenue Service may be coming in here, but
well, I'm sure you pay all of the millions in tax anyway.
And somebody else's.
Give me a sense of what it means to be an international businessman like you are. I mean, we hear a lot about Atlanta being a black Mecca. You may be the quintessential sort of black Mecca businessman.
Well, not so much. There's some great business leaders and success stories in Atlanta, many more than I think we understand and recognize in this great city. I think the thing for me is I get a little more high-profile exposure because I believe in returning and investing back into the community because it's the community and the people of my community who helped me to get to where I am. And so there are many of us, I mean, I see my old buddy Roosevelt Adams and others here, that we understand that we have to reinvest. And so with that said, I'm one of those individuals that my late mentor, Maynard Jackson, used to say, see, I'm not a scared Negro. If things aren't right, I'm going to stand up and deal with it. And if it means you're going to lose a contract, the business, so be it. I'd rather lose it and take care of my people than to get paid and let my people suffer, just as I jumped on Delta a few months ago. So with that, I think the important part is I've been able to travel the world, been able to connect people. I've been able to ensure that there are other successful business owners. And so all of that has helped me, and I think at the end of the day, it goes back to the late Benjamin E. Mays, who says, we make our living by what we get, but we make our lives by what we give, and so that's been important to me.
But the critics would suggest that many black businessmen of your ilk don't give back. They just move on. And many people in this audience, perhaps, and others younger than you, will say, how do I move on? How do I move on from being a small or medium-sized black business person to moving on up?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is understanding that an old wise man told me, he said, if you hoop with the owls late at night, you got to soar with the eagles early the next morning.
Right.
And so for me, I will get up at sunup and I'll work to late at night. I very seldom, in the last 15 years, maybe 20 years of my life, I don't think I've been in a nightclub other than to go there for a purpose because of a business appearance or for an organization. I don't hang out in nightclubs because my time, for example, I'd rather spend that time mentoring young people, working to help businesses develop, working to build communities. And so the way that I've been able to be successful is by helping people and giving back and then staying focused and understanding it's about the bottom line, not just in the bank, but it's the bottom line of my community.
Well, can we get to the bank? Many people believe that networking is the key to getting to the bank. Either networking with the black business president or some white gentleman who happens to be powerful. You're saying the clubs aren't it. How do you get to the bank? How do you get that loan?
Well, first, anybody going into business have to understand if you don't believe in yourself enough to invest in yourself, why should anybody else invest in you? So when I came out into business, I used my resources to fund to start my funding for my business. And folks may say, well, you had it made. Well, working for a U.S. Senator, and he was one of the most powerful senators in the history of the U.S. Senate, but they didn't pay staff people that great of money. I was a state director first.
But everybody knew you statewide. I mean, you had contacts galore.
Yeah,
you were Facebook
alive. But the point was, at the end of the day, Maynard, walking into the bank, I couldn't go to the bank with potential. Potential's great, but I had to put money on the table. I had to be focused. And the important thing for me was I planned my work and then worked my plan. And see, so what I did coming out, I didn't just leave Sam Nunn's office. I stayed there 16 years. But I had a master plan. I made sure, one, I had clients on the books before I left. Because, see, that paycheck was like a drug, though. You know, every 2 weeks, you know, that check's coming. But my 16 years with Sam Nunn wasn't about getting that check. I had offers that would have paid me in the high six figures to leave. But I stayed on because I was able to use the most powerful senator's office to help make, I know, a minimum of 31 millionaires that came from the work by helping them access defense contracts and access contracts with the federal government. I stayed, one, because I could pick up the phone to a general. I could pick up the phone to a secretary of a U.S. department and make things happen.
Did those contacts make things happen for you as well?
Well, that's the thing that led me to the private sector. When I looked around and said, wow, this is working for all these folks, and my advice, maybe I should try it. And so I did. I left. But let me tell you the thing about it, though, Maynard. When I left, Sam Nunn said, well, if you're not going to stay, at least let me contract with you so you'll still be a consultant. Sam Nunn gave me a deal. I could have stayed in bed 3 years.
Wow.
Because it was a matter of when he called if he needed help. But then another friend that I had made was Sal Diaz-Verson, who was a former president of Aflac. We had become friends. Sal gave me a deal that I could have added another 2 years. I would have had to get out of bed and do anything with the deals that I had. But I used that as a cushion and started work and never looked back. But the thing that I did expect, of those 31 African-American millionaires that I helped to make.
Literally 31.
31 that I counted. May have made some extras. Not one of them picked up the phone when they heard I was leaving Sam Nunn to say, well, Tommy, what can we do? Can we retain your services? But you know, the thing that I did with them was the same thing I teach young people today. You can't get ahead getting even. So my attitude was, okay, if you don't want to help me, because I certainly wasn't going to pick up the phone and say, all right, guys, I helped you, now come on and take care of me. That's not the way I do business. They didn't call. Now, when I did leave, and he hadn't made his millions, but Ed Bourne was the first business person that I had assisted in the work he was doing and said, Tommy, I don't have a whole lot of money, but I'm here, I want to work with you. And we did some deals together. Most people don't realize that Sam Nunn Atlanta Federal Center, which right now is the third largest federal center ever built,
wow,
was Ed Bourne's project. 40% African American businesses participated in the building of that. You know, the number one building is the Pentagon, number two is the Ronald Reagan, and number three was that building. And Ed Bourne brought that project to us, and we helped him make it happen.
Many people think if you lived in Atlanta during your era, your mentor Maynard Jackson, he could not get a job here either. Nobody helped him out either when he left. He had to go to Chicago to get a job. But many people believe, well, if you were in Atlanta, well, you got your money from an 8A contract, or you got your money from joint ventures. That wasn't your path, was it?
No, I didn't. I've never had a contract, and this is the thing that's so funny. Many people say, oh, you're doing this. I have never had a contract with the city of Atlanta in the history of my 16 years being in business. Now, I have a contract with IAC, which is the group of private business folks, but I design all of the inclusion programs for Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Started in 1999, and in November of last year, we exceeded $1 billion that we've been able to ensure that mainly African-American-owned businesses have gotten as a part of the $7 billion expansion of Hartsfield-Jackson. But I've never had a city contract. Never bidded on one, don't want one, because, you know, and the reason for that is that people, for example, I get tired of hearing folks talk about, well, Herman Russell's getting too much business.
Right.
But nobody talks about the 9 white major corporations in on every contract that has happened in this city probably for the last 50 years. Nobody talks about them. What they forget is that Herman Russell was able to be successful because he had bonding capacity. And now you've got C.D. Moody and several others, Egbert Perry, who were mentors of Herman, who are doing well, and others are doing well. But we don't like to celebrate success of black folks. We criticize them. And
there's a lot of criticism.
There's too much criticism. But at the end of the day, if you're going to criticize him, what about Cousins and all of those who are just getting gazillions of dollars? And then we want to talk about Herman Russell and criticize him. So we got, as black folks, we gotta celebrate success, but help to make more people successful.
Tommy, let's talk about the criticism, okay? I applaud that. But we're on Edgewood Avenue. Auburn Avenue is right down the street. Auburn Avenue is a sad relic of what it once was. But you made 31 millionaires. I don't see nobody putting millions in down here.
Egbert Perry came back.
Right.
If you notice, I served 10 years as the national chair of 100 Black Men of America. Had many places, even had places offered free for the 100. If you notice on Auburn Avenue, 141 Auburn Avenue, there's a building with my name on it, the Thomas W. Dortch Jr. Center. That's the building I bought that houses the 100 Black Men of America. We came right in the heart of Sweet Auburn because in that building, that was where the first African-American judge, Judge Walden, was on that second floor. It was a pharmacist on the first floor. We moved into the neighborhood. I'm looking to buy an office building. I tried to buy the building right down the street, but a church had put an option on it on this street, on Edgewood, and they bought the building there, but I'm right now about to move all of my headquarters to Auburn Avenue. I tried to buy the building from SCF. They were going to sell it to me, and they changed their mind.
And you said you're trying to get, told me earlier, you're trying to get the Atlanta.
Atlanta, I'm about to make an offer to buy the Atlanta Daily World building that's been closed. As soon as my contractors go in and look at it, I'm moving all of my business there because it's important. The reason why we aren't there is not the fault of white folks.
Right.
The reason why we aren't there, as a matter of fact, if you look at homes on the opposite side of where we are now, those homes sold for $8,000 and $9,000. Now you can't buy a home under $250,000. You may now because of the recession, but we didn't buy them.
Marie Cowles and those of the District Development Corporation turned that into a gold mine.
I know, and then
for white folks.
Right, but then Tamanika kept working to try and get us in there.
That was a pure ghetto.
I know, it was.
10 years ago.
But Auburn Avenue used to be downtown Atlanta. Right. And so I believe in history. And when you look at the fact that Herndon, multi-millionaire, Atlanta Life is there. That's what the 100 Black Men of Atlanta's office was for a long time. But it's on us. We need to invest and reinvest. But Auburn Avenue is not the only place. I mean, right. I'm talking to a group now. I'll take over as chairman of the board of Atlanta Business League again in November.
Again, you say.
Again, this will be my third term.
Why?
In November.
Why you're really committed to this, aren't you?
Well, because if we don't work with each other and don't help other African-American owned businesses grow, then why should anybody else be successful? Because when you look around, it's easy to take one down, but when you got an army, it's a tough job for anybody to move us out.
Tommy, you seem to survive and thrive being black in your spirit and your heart, but you don't just do black business deals, do you?
Well, really, 95% of all my business comes from the white business community.
Why?
Well, I've had a few black clients who didn't want to pay me. So what I do now is I do a lot of free service for African-American owned businesses. I have one case, and I'll make it quick. Young lady paid this white consultant, and I'm not mad at my white brothers and sisters. If they're going to give it to you, take it. But she played this white consultant trying to get a contract from HUD. She paid him thousands of dollars, and the best she could do was get to the regional administrator of HUD. She contracted with me, and within 3 weeks, I had her in Washington, D.C., sitting down with the Secretary of HUD, Andy Cuomo, who's a close friend of mine. I took her in. Not only did I take her in, the deal was as soon as the undersecretary was approved by Congress, they were going to process her in and get her a contract. Within 2 weeks after that, she called me and said, I don't have a contract yet. I said, you remember what the secretary said? She said, okay. She called me again the next week. Now, she had been with me less than 6 weeks. She had paid this white consultant for a whole year. And so then she told me, she said, well, I'm not going to pay you because I don't have a contract. So I told her, look, you don't have to pay me. Not only do you not have to pay me, I will send you back the money you paid me that you beat me down to take less than my rate. I'm going to send you your money back. And I sent it, but I made one point. I said, you will need me before I need you. In about 10 days, I did get the call from the U.S. Secretary of HUD. And I said, he said, Andy said, well, do you want my staff to call or are you going to call? I said, no, I'll call her. I picked up the phone and called this lady named Pam. I will not give her last name. And I said, deal is done. Your contract is set. You'll be getting the papers. She said, you didn't block it? I said, no. She said, well, let me pay you. I said, you don't pay me a penny, but remember what I told you. You will need me before I need you. Do you know in 4 months, she called me up because one of my closest buddies was president of a company that had a multi-million-dollar opportunity and asked me if I would call him. I said, if I call him, he will know the truth about what you did. And so she had called him and said she was a friend of mine. He called me, and I told him, I said, let me tell you what went down. I said, but you should deal with her on merit. He said, well, if she did you that way, there's no need in her calling me. But people forget, when you burn bridges, you can't cross over them again.
Is your business, your clout, your influence political, or is your business acumen? Now, you were in politics for a long time.
Well, I'm a statesman.
What do you parlay?
Well, I'm a statesman. The thing for me, for example, I've met today, I shouldn't do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I met with Joan Gardner today, who's running for Fulton County Commission to replace Nancy Boxer, who's been a tremendous person. Not only did I write a check, I'm raising money because I believe in helping good people get in office. It's not about what you do for me. And I make it clear to everybody, when I write my check investing in what you're going to do for the masses of people in our community. The fact that you're not going to vanish. So we spent time, and I picked up the phone, raised about $50,000 a day.
You raised 50. Wait. You said it like you raised 50 grand today
on the phone to make sure she had her kitty to get her started.
How does Tommy Dortch do that? Come on, man.
I keep a bank of IOUs. You owe me. It's time to pay up. But see, the thing that people forget is we shouldn't do things and expect to get paid right there for doing it. The reason why I can pick up the phone is that I don't do things for people expecting you're going to pay me back. I do it because it's the right thing to do. If I get a call and folks, I get paid a nice bit of money traveling the country to speak. I do about 40 major speeches a year. And I was just telling a young lady earlier, it's not about getting paid. If it's a cause I believe in, I don't want to get paid. I've traveled, I picked up the tab. I'm going to Ghana to speak at a global conference. They called me to say, well, we can pay you $10,000 and pay your expenses. I said, you don't pay me anything. I've been trying to get to Ghana for the last 2 years.
Why do they call Thomas Dortch Jr.? Because of your business success? Because of your political connections? Because you survived cancer? Because you founded 100 Black Men? What is it? I mean, what hat do you wear most?
Well, I think they call me because of the completeness of the man I am. I have an ego.
Yeah, we know that.
I have an ego, but my ego is not overpowered. My ego, and I tell folks, see, people got this thing mixed up about ego. My ego is I can do anything, I can succeed. It ain't about I've succeeded, come sit at the throne. That ain't for me. Because people will tell you in a minute, my house is open to anybody. Kids in my community, I don't care where they are. But my ego is I can succeed, I can make things happen. But what I do, what they understand, and with me the issue is if I can make things happen or pull together a team and we make it happen, that's satisfaction. I love to be able to prove people that you can. I tell people now, you can't tell me I can't, because I will try every angle until I decide maybe I need to do something else. But I don't believe in failure. I don't teach it. I don't repeat it. I've worked for success and try to make sure that the young people I work with and the businesses and the community understand when we're together, we have the power to do anything we want.
Tommy, we have a question from the internet for you. That's how internationally, globally you're known. And the question from Joy, I believe the name is, I could be saying it wrong. How can we make some more millionaires today? You made 31 before. How do we make more today in this economy and in the state of Black America?
Well, let's just take Hartsfield-Jackson. There's several more millionaires that have come out of Hartsfield. Watershed Project has about a $3 billion amount of money, and I think our mayor, and I think we're fortunate to have a solid young man as mayor who's made some commitments. Part of that is going to be us working together to make sure not just him and city council and others that we can fulfill those commitments.
But he wasn't your first choice.
Oh no, he wasn't my first choice, and I make no bones about it. But I told him one thing about it when he came in. I helped raise money. I was there for him because we had a commitment up front. Whoever is in the runoff, because we knew it was going to be there, we will be there the next morning at 8:30 the next morning. I was there with him. But, again, I tell folks, I don't campaign against anybody. I campaign for the people I like.
You really debated whether or not Thomas Dortch should be on the ballot. Any regrets that you didn't run?
No.
You could have had the money.
I could have had
people
the money.
People know you.
Well, I had people I could have had right off. I had Bishop Long committed to raise a minimum of $1 million. Sam Nunn, when I sat with him, told me whatever amount of money I needed, they would make sure I had it. But I thought about it, and I probably came closest to running for that than I did anything else. But for me, I've always preached and supported that we should have younger people in office. I turned 60 on April 12th. And I've had a wonderful life.
And you had a weekend long. The party lasted for 4 days.
Yeah, we had over 4,000 people to participate for that weekend. But that was also a party with a purpose.
That wasn't ego? That wasn't celebrate me?
No, I was going to do one day. Frank Ski and the team said, how are you going to bring in 60 with one day? So they did Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday we closed it. I'm a jazz lover. I had Will Downing, Nige, Mike Phillips, and Kim Waters, and others to come for that. But that was to raise money for my foundation and for the Black College Alumni Hall of Fame. And we had some fun, and Susan Taylor and Roland Martin and a whole bunch of folks came in to hang with me. Michael Eric Dyson.
I could talk to you forever, but we got 10 minutes left. Let's take off some things. The Black College Hall of Fame. It was a thrill to me. I'm a Hampton graduate.
Right.
You went to some little school in South Georgia. I don't know where it is.
The Fort Valley State University.
But for the president to speak at Hampton was a nice note.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, and he talks about education or lack thereof.
Wow. Well, I can tell you now, in New York last June, I took Arnie Duncan to task in New York because, unfortunately, in the beginning of this administration, President Obama's administration did not put money into the budget for historical black colleges and universities. George W. Bush had put $85 million in it. Clinton before that had put $85 million in it each of his years. Bush put it in each of his years. We even got a good little bit in under Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr. And President Obama's folks keep telling us, well, he can't show that he's partial to black folks. We don't want to be partial to black folks. We just want to make sure the black people get their fair share like everybody else. They increased the money for MIs, which are institutions that have at least 30% Hispanic enrollment. They got an increase. We had to go to Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and the Congressional Black Caucus. Not only did we get the $85 million put back in, we get doubled it to $150 million we got in for HBCUs. The president is not so much the president, it's the president's men, because right now, president is surrounded by white and Jewish males.
And Republican males.
And a lot of Republican males.
And what does that say to you, sir? Come on now.
Well, let me tell you. I believe in President Barack Obama. I think the problem is he's so overly managed and micromanaged that Ronnie Manuel and those got him believing that the nation is looking at you and you're the first black president, so you cannot be out here showing favoritism to black folks. Well, where we have fallen down as black folks, we should be just as aggressive in pushing and demanding for black people in America as we did with Bush, as we did with Clinton, as we did with Reagan, as we did with Carter. And we're not pushing this president to do the right thing. And unfortunately, his administration has less African Americans than George Bush.
Right, exactly.
And so we got one in the cabinet, and then we got one, of course, we got two in the cabinet. And Valerie Jarrett has no real influence in the White House. Now the sister with the power and the hope for us is the one and only.
Right.
The one and only.
It's white.
Mrs. Obama, Michelle Obama is a bad sister. And so that's where we're couching our hopes on that. For example, we got now another Jewish female for the Supreme Court nominated, which would give us 2 Jewish women on the Supreme Court. We really don't have a black person on the Supreme. We kind of got a black person on the Supreme Court.
He's from your part of the state, isn't he?
No, he's from South Georgia. I'm a mountain man. I'm from Toccoa, Georgia. But again, why not a black female?
Right, exactly.
And
we had the premier one, our former state.
Well, we got several, and there's several jurists, black females who would run rings. And then the sad thing, you got 5 Harvard. If she's confirmed, there will be 5 Harvard judges, 2 from Yale, and they need to understand that Harvard and Yale and Brown does not have exclusivity on intelligence. Thurgood Marshall came from Howard University. They should be spreading it around. And this president, when you look at the people in this cabinet, are Harvard and Yale and all, and see HBCUs. You can take Morehouse and Spelman. You can go to Hampton. You can go to Howard. You can go to Fort Valley, Albany State. In them, they got great people who can help run this country. And so we just got to change the paradigm.
I'd like to talk to you more about the president, who I have some concerns about. That seemingly you do too.
Yeah, I mean, I support President Obama, but what we've got to do is we've got to make him do right so that he can say the people want it, not, and so it's our fault just as much because we're not pressuring this administration to do more. There were no guarantees, there were no procurement opportunities even in the money.
Grady Hospital. Grady Hospital.
Grady.
Come on, man.
Phenomenal institution. I am the chairman of the board of the Fulton DeKalb Hospital Authority. We own Grady. Grady Hospital treats over 100,000 indigents a year, people who can't afford it. It treats them and does not charge a penny. It's the #1 burn center in the southeastern regions, the #1 prenatal center. 50% of all AIDS cases in the state of Georgia are treated at Grady. Grady Hospital trains over 1/3 of all trauma doctors in the state.
It turned a profit for the first time this year.
First time in 25 years.
On the backs of poor people?
Oh no, not on the backs of poor people. Finally got a private sector involvement. They raised $302 million new dollars to invest in Grady. Fulton and DeKalb County are the only counties that invest in Grady, but 112 counties use Grady, and they're not putting their money in to Grady. But Grady, the way we got to deal with Northside will stop someone from bleeding, give them money for a cab to come to Grady. Grady will not turn a person away. They will treat them. If you don't have the money, Grady will not let you die. And so what we've got to do is rally and support Grady, and it's unfortunate that not more black people put money in support of Grady from our contribution.
But you took some flack from activists about selling out and going with the white boy. I mean, I never heard you take that kind of flack.
Oh, but you know what? I kicked butt publicly on those same people because I told Senator Vincent Ford, you're at state senate. I haven't seen one bill that you sponsored over in there to support Grady. I have not seen you take the governor to task. We're appointed by the county. We're not elected officials. So don't come in here telling me what we aren't doing. You and the Legislative Black Caucus need to make sure Grady gets money from the state, which it didn't get. Well, some of the other public folks said they didn't want white folks controlling Grady. Well, we appointed a corporation. 11 of them are African American, and only 6 are white. So don't tell me we put white folks in control of Grady.
2 more questions. We got
all right.
Because you're one. You're good at this, man. 100 Black Men of America.
Phenomenal organization.
You're the chairman emeritus.
Right.
There's some who suggest you start out like a bang. There's some who suggest you kind of lost your way. You become more party than purpose. There's some who suggest that. I'm only asking the question.
Oh no, the 100 Black Men of America still has over 125,000 young people in the mentoring program. We have what is called Forward for the Future that I started almost 15 years ago. It's economic development, health and wellness, mentoring and education. We're now expanding. When I left, I took it from 46 chapters to 102. We now have 115. We're still doing our thing. They still have parties, but what people don't see, for example, with Best Academy, a single gender school, we're part of the partnership running Best Academy. We own Eagles Academy in New York, where every black male in New York and Eagles Academy graduated. We're doing it. We have an all-male school in Memphis. We have an alternative school down in Mobile, Alabama. We're mentoring, making a difference. We will, if you come messing with our community, we're going to take you on. But so folks see the big things we do. They forget, though, the things that we do funds Project Success. We got hundreds of kids in college. We're paying 100% of their costs. We're doing a lot of things. We got kids in robotics who had never competed internationally and came in first place last year. So there are a lot of great things happening, but people can say the 100's lost its way, and I had 10 great years. The problem is all those criticizing the 100 need to get up off their assets and do something about mentoring and supporting kids.
Is it your proudest achievement, although we still have a 50% dropout rate, is one of all you've done, that's your proudest achievement? Or what would you say is?
My proudest achievement? My proudest achievement, there are many.
60 years old.
60 years old. When I
old
look,
man.
Hey, no, life begins at 60.
Thanks, I didn't know that.
My proudest achievement, I don't know if I can pin it on one thing, but the key thing, again, as I know we're wrapping up, is that I've never lost my way. I've stayed focused. I graduated in the last segregated school in my community, and I have never lost sight of the importance of creating opportunities, fighting for those who've been left out and left behind, and standing firm and understand that the money we make can be gone tomorrow. But when we have our commitment and our soul, you can't take that away. And so I'm in the soul of black folks trying to make sure I do my part and hope others will come on and stand up for black people, for our community and our black kids. If we don't do it, we can't expect anybody else to do it.
Well, on a lighter note, but we're in the NBA playoffs.
Playoffs?
Last Monday, there was a rally of many of your friends, all past black mayors, the current mayor, and others, suggesting we should keep the coach, Woody.
I am with Woody, because if people look, every year we've had increases. They didn't give Woody the players he needed. Mike Woodson has moved us up every year. We ended up third in our division this year. I mean, Mike Woodson is not getting paid the millions of dollars to shoot the ball. I mean, Joe Johnson went into the tank. Every year he's gone in the tank doing playoffs. Those guys still have competed. They own the Boston Celtics this year. They've made improvement, but they need to give him a big man. And he finally got son, a general manager. All these years, we could have had the best point guard in the nation, right, but the general manager back then took a big man that's not even on our payroll. So, well, we got one other. I mean, Marvin Williams is okay. But my whole thing is let Joe go. If he wants to go, let's go on down and get D. Wade and bring D. Wade in here. We'll close this out.
Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, this man's something else, isn't he? The greatest businessman we know in Atlanta, and quite a politician himself. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maynard, and thank you, Tommy. This has been a fabulous interview. Yes, a round of applause for Mr. Tommy Dortch. Very few men, very few people believe in reaching back and actually do something. So we must applaud those men like Tommy and the men of 100 who do so. Now, I'd like to introduce the executive producer of Newsmakers Live, Mr. Jim Welcome.
Okay. Generally, when this is over, I stand in front, but I want to get close to this money.
We'll take a back seat.
But, you know, for real, the real thing about Tommy Dortch that makes him special is that I've only known him for a short period of time. And in that short period of time, I've always had access. And what it really is all about for all you young business people out there is access. And if you want to grow your businesses, you need to develop a demeanor that gets you access. Making money is not a secret. Being successful is not a secret. It requires consistency, hard work, and access. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Newsmakers.